not sure if you had a chance to attend the keynote of smart city expert Michael Donezel-Carbon. Smart cities result in a general transformation of how we live. A different way of doing things, with key elements such as infrastructure, privacy and security. And apart from electric and autonomous vehicles, this will have a significant impact on car insurance. So, how is the mobility landscape going to look like 10 years from now? What new products will insurers need to create? What strategic partnerships are essential? Talkshow host Xenia Poppe, Director InsurTech Munich at Plug and Play, will cover all of that in this talk show, building products and services to cater for the mobility sector of the future.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself for a thought-provoking journey into the, and I mean it in the truest sense of the word, electrifying realm of the future of mobility. Everyone here on stage is a true visionary about products and services in the insurance industry with a focus on mobility. So I'm excited to really dive deeper into the topic of our talk show today, building products and services to cater for the mobility of the future. So buckle up as we dive headfirst into the world of whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's sustainable materials, all the web of supply chains that connect everything are shattering the long-standing paradigm. And get ready to explore this session with us today. My name is Xenia. I'm the director of Plug and Play InsurTech platform in Europe. And I'm really, really happy and honored to be the host of this session. And I think we just jump into the discussion, into this talk show format. Timur, you're the director with Munich Re Ventures. You led the climate tech and future of transportation investment sectors and hold a PhD and degree from the Columbia University in applied physics, as well as applied mathematics. You have been in BC for 8 years now, 4 years with Munich Re, so I assume you still bring a lot of fresh wind into the company, because I heard the average belonging with the company is 15 years round about.
That's true.
So whether it's about moving people, moving goods, the data across space, aviation, maritime or mobility, you're curious about all this. It's a big appetite. So what's your view on the mobility sector in the future? Share with us some more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you very much for the introduction, and big thank you to the audience and the organizers for being here and putting this together. And so, Xenia, as you said, I kind of split my time between investing in early stage companies within the climate technology world and early stage companies within transportation. And so for today's discussion, I thought I would combine the two and talk a little bit about my belief that what's happening in climate, meaning decarbonization, the push for net zero, sustainability, how these things are going to really, in my opinion, dramatically change how we look at transportation and the implications in terms of the new products, the new services, new business models, new technologies that need to be developed by startups as well as established companies in order to make this transition smooth. So the first thing I'll say, and this is not controversial, I think, is that electric vehicles are absolutely driving this transition, right? And they've been around for a little while, obviously, but it feels like we're at an inflection point right now in terms of EV adoption, wherein the big automotive car makers, so for example, Ford, are now rolling or planning to roll out electric vehicles in mass. I believe Ford is planning to produce 2 million EVs just, I think, in 2 years, in 2025 or 2026. And so the implications there are tremendous on how we do things. Think about how do we maintain vehicles today, right? There's a lot of mechanical pieces that are moving, but in the electric vehicle, there's much less mechanical sort of engineering required and a lot more electrical engineering required. So we have to rethink that. We have to rethink how we buy and sell vehicles. We have to rethink the behavioral element of the vehicles. And I know, Sander, you're going to talk a little bit about what that can mean, right? How do we train people to drive? And maybe most importantly for this audience, we need to rethink what insurance means for electric vehicles. Because the reality is that an insurance policy on an EV really covers two separate things. It covers the physical car, the chassis, the body, but it also covers the battery. And those two things are not always aligned. And the underwriting of the insurance, it has to be, I think, fairly interesting, fairly different in order to account for these things. The data that are being collected and how they're being collected in order to enable the underwriting need to change as well. And so we need startups, new companies to develop these tools, which today, frankly, either don't exist or exist in a very nascent form. So that's one. Two, and maybe this is a little bit less obvious, the world around the electric vehicle also needs to change, right? Those secondary, tertiary. I'll provide a couple of examples. So first, think about the actual car, right? Although we're replacing the engine, right, and we're replacing the power, the fuel source from fossil fuel to renewable, what about everything else that goes into the car? The reality is that all the plastics, the polycarbonate, polyurethane, polyethylene, foams, all of these materials, they're produced from fossil fuels. And so if you truly want to decarbonize the automotive sector, you need to completely rethink how are those materials produced, right? Are there new materials that are sustainable that are created instead? Or can we produce the existing plastics but in a sustainable way, right? Those are big questions that, again, people need to answer because we don't have those answers today. That's one example. Second example, charging infrastructure, right? Today, the charging infrastructure, it's very nascent. And it's okay because there are not many EVs, and the EVs that exist today are in sort of very particular market segments. But when we have mass adoption, all of that is going to change. And the way I like to think about it is, at some point, we need to think about our cars the same way that we think about our phones, which is to say, you know, when we're at home, when we're in the office, when we're not physically moving, we just charge our phones, right? We don't only charge the phone when the battery reaches zero. I think this is the future of how EVs will be treated, but the reality is that the charging infrastructure, it's not there, right? You can, if you live in a single family home, you own your home, sure, you can install a charger. But if you live in an apartment building, if you're an urban resident, as many people are, most people are, then where will you charge, right? And so we need companies to come up with low-cost physical charging infrastructure, but also the business models that will encourage the building owners, the garage the garage owners to build out these capabilities that don't exist today. And then we have to think about the next order. So imagine now we all have a charger. We come home to our garage, we plug in our car, and the local transformer blows, right? Because our infrastructure, our grid is not set up for peak demand to come from so many sources at the same time. So we need either for new hardware, right? We need utilities to build entirely new transformers, new grid resiliency tools, or we need software. We need a clever way to distribute electricity demand so that we don't have to make big grid investments. None of this exists today, or at least not at scale. And then the third thing I'll mention is the connected car, right? Because all of these companies, as they move from a traditional internal combustion engine platform into an electric platform, they are using that opportunity to also future-proof their cars with various connected elements, right? These days, your air conditioner has a processor in it and some kind of Bluetooth chip, and it's sending data, right? You have so many sensors. Your seats have sensors. And what that does is it increases the attack surface of your car, right? So a huge cybersecurity threat emerges. And what we need to have is clever tools, software and hardware, to protect the vehicle in a way that doesn't exist today, because the attacks are going to be completely different than they have been in the past. And I think, Didem, you will talk a little bit about what's happening in the cyber risk world. Then finally, the third thing I'll say before I get shut down is about supply chains. And here, again, things will have to change. First of all, everything that I mentioned earlier about sustainable materials, right? We need to be able to prove that these materials are sustainable, right? That things were harvested, transported, produced, whatever, in a sustainable way. And we need to be able to measure that and to report it. And again, those tools, they're at a very early stage. Supply chain visibility is incredibly complex, and no one has been able to crack it yet. So we need those capabilities. And the last thing about supply chain is, as folks will remember, sorry, am I out of time?
At a certain point of time, I think I need to interrupt you.
Last thing I'll say, I promise. As folks will remember, how many cars were in parking lots, not finished, not built fully because they were missing chips or they were missing batteries or what have you. And the reality is that our supply chains need to become, for critical materials, they need to become a lot more resilient. By critical materials, I mean semiconductor materials, battery materials, lithium, cobalt, nickel, etc. They are today extracted, refined, and produced in very problematic places. And we need to have capabilities to do these things, not just at home, but sustainably at home. Because I don't think anyone wants to bring back dirty industry that we kicked out of, our countries in the 20th century. I don't think anyone wants to bring them back in their legacy form in the 21st. And so we need smart people to develop new technologies to do these things better.
If someone ever says again that the insurance industry is not emotional enough, I'll make them speak to you. Well, over the past 2 days, I heard a lot of questions about what if people don't want to be insured anymore? They don't want to buy insurance. They want to take the risk on their own, as I feel nothing really fits their needs. Didem, you are sharing economy and mobility lead in Marsh, Europe. You bring an industry expertise over 18 years to the table, 10 years with Marsh across different regions like Middle East, Turkey, all the way also different responsibilities, even reinsurance experts. So within this rich experience in creating customer journeys with these different roles, when it comes to servicing or also risk management, tell us, how do we get then to such what is actually such a customer first product or services that might keep people wanting insurance?
All right, yeah. Thank you, Xenia. I think everyone can hear me now. I think the first thing that we need to do is to transform the way we think about insurance, right? Because when we say insurance products, the insurance sector, automatically, traditionally talk about the terms and conditions, the pricing and everything. But then if we change our focus from the product itself to the customer journey and the needs of the client, then I think it's going to be a different way for us and a more beneficial product for the customer, because that's the only way that we can actually cover the clients, the customers, and the consumers' real-time needs. So I think that's very important that we just move away from the traditional perspective and focus on more the customer's experience, the user experience. How do we embed insurance in a seamless way with the client's app, the client's website, however they're gonna promoting their business model, right? And I think another issue that we need to think about is that how do we make insurance an additional revenue stream rather than a pure cost center for the clients. Because within the traditional ways, insurers and insurance is always a cost center for everyone, and it's always something they want to escape, right? And if we change this perspective and think about how we provide additional revenue streams, how do we provide like an enhancement to the business models, then I think we would just see the right path and like move forward together with the industry growth. So I guess my statement is that insurance should support the industry growth, both for mobility and like obviously for any sort of like sharing economy, like new kind of innovative insurance business, because we can't just stick to the old ways of thinking, pricing, and everything. So we should do like flexible pricings, flexible coverages, usage-based pricing, based on the client's needs and based on their requests, because then we have to understand like the mobility ecosystem, right? Like, because in mobility, the traditional way of insurance doesn't work. Like, the cars are parked sometimes and they're in use sometimes. So we need to be able to provide flexible coverage when the time comes for the consumer's need, right? So, I think the first thing that I want to state is that we really, as an insurance sector, need to transform how we think rather than just focusing on one product.
With these transformed thinking, but also then the developing products, just what are risks that are emerging connected to these?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Timur said a very nice thing, I guess. Like, it may sound a little controversial, but I agree that when it comes to mobility, the insurance products that we know don't work, right? So I don't think they are the best products in place right now in the market. So what we need to do is to somehow cooperate and co-listen, and then until then we can co-create the right product with the client. So what kind of risks this could be? Like, I think cyber risks definitely is a big part, because now we are talking about the EVs and AVs, and we're talking about different sort of cyber risks, not only for corporations but also for individuals, right? So what's going to happen if the system of my vehicle is hacked, and then something happened, my bank account got hacked, I have financial loss. We need to think about these different stages of different risks, and then just listen to what the consumer needs based on those risks, and only then we can co-create the right products.
Let me introduce Zender now, the man who's actually representing exactly such innovative products and processes and the thinking as the general manager Netherlands, as well as the managing director Europe with Ziggo, an insurtech unicorn actually that transfers power from the insurer to the insured. So this is really customer first in its extreme version. You believe in that the social challenges like the increased or very high frequency of car accidents, but also the high CO2 emissions, that they really stem from a lack of behavioral information, which is exactly the fuel of Ziggo's business model or beliefs. Over the past couple of days, we exchanged actually the one or the other very tangible use case where behavioral information would have been useful, or you see the impact. So I would love for you to share some of these potential impacts with the audience.
Yeah, so we strongly believe that there's a transformation going. So we're going to autonomous driving. That's probably going to be there in 2040 or 2050, we don't know when. But in the meantime, we have to transform to that new era. And in that new era, there is a lot of new ways of traveling, not only by cars, but also with scooters, with shared vehicles. And we think that we have to learn in this period of time. So we need to learn and also educate the drivers that are still driving an electric car or a micromobility car or a vehicle So we have to educate them. To give you an example, so when somebody's starting his career, he gets an electric vehicle at the moment. So how many people do have an electric vehicle up here? Okay, so in the current time, so my son is 18. He's just had his driver's license, and he had 0 time in an electric vehicle. So he was educated in a manual-driven, fuel-based car. And then we put him into an electric car. An electric car is a complete different way of driving. So he can go from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. And that's not, you can't do that with the cars that he got his driver's license in. So that means that we have to keep an eye on him. So if he's going to drive, we have to keep an eye on him. What is he doing? Is he driving normally, or is he just going like a rocket all day? And if he does, then we have to educate him, because the education is not done before. And I think all that information, so the information you have about the driver behavior of the youngsters, but also the people that drive for a company, the last mile delivery, also in an electric vehicle, we have to educate them. And education can only be done with information. So we strongly believe that you first of all need the information, and then you nudge people to drive better. And that means less incidents, less accidents, less injuries, less damage to the cars, less repair. And that means whole society is going to be better then. So we are going for safer roads, but then you need to reward the drivers for it. So if they drive better, they get a bit better premium, but they also get money from us and vouchers to be stronger in their car. And we strongly believe that that helps in the transformation to that autonomous driving, because also regulators and car manufacturers should use all the information to get their development also in a better place. So that's our strong belief, and we are very passionate about that, and also working day by day to get that done for drivers.
Daljit, you spent 20 years in cyber, 8 years in insurance. Now, hearing all about this, like connected and data flow, your cyber security or risk heart must be higher. Well, like you were actually 2 heads. The global head of your global head of cyber risk with Tokyo Marine, and the head of Tokyo Marine's innovation lab in London. When you look at the mobility of the future, I know you try to find solutions or new products and services by lifting this on a broader perspective, by bringing in the idea or lens of almost like fully smart cities. Tell us more about this.
Sure. Hopefully everybody can hear me. So I think the future of mobility really will be synonymous with smart cities. And what I mean by smart cities, and Tokyo Marine and my team especially, have been focusing on how to support our entire group on smart cities. So there's 4 real areas of smart cities. One is on the infrastructure side. So think of it as a smart operating system of how buildings will talk to each other. Clearly, already within UK, Europe, and US, and clearly Japan, there are, smart homes. So this is the whole infrastructure we're talking about. As well as that, there's people and living. So the accessibility side, the economy is moving from owning to sharing. That's very important. Transportation, so smart roads, smart infrastructure. As part of all that, will provide better insights and provide resilience in a smart city. And ESG, that's very important, sustainability. We've already touched on topics of that. I'll come back to that at the end. Tokyo Marine, as the largest P&C insurer within Japan, domiciled in Japan, is very close to the smart city topic. We are supporting the Japanese government, who have an initiative to come. This may feel quite strange, but there's an initiative in Japan to convert 100 cities into smart cities by 2025. Okay, so it's quite aggressive, but it's happening as we speak. The market size for smart cities 2 years ago was $500 billion. By the end of this decade, it's going to be $7 trillion. Okay, just to put that into perspective of the future. Okay, also, if you know about smart metering, Smart metering is part of smart cities. That is only worth 20 billion. So you can see how much this 7 trillion opportunity really is. As also with our Tokyo Marine as an insurer, and we've already touched on the different types of insurance, there is clearly, when you work in smart cities, there's an opportunity for new insurance channels and markets of how things are connected and how you look at insurance. Research and development opportunities as well. So working with other providers who are, constructing the smart city. There is an opportunity to look at different insurance, vehicles like parametric, which is solely based on data, and the access to data and indexes and all that sort of thing. So that's very important. But from a Tokyo Marine perspective, it's also enhancing client relationships. And I suppose the best example I want to give you is, and I want people after this, please Google this, but there is one of our key tier 1 clients is Toyota, the car manufacturer. And they have a smart city project called the Woven City. Okay, please Google it after. This is the quote from the website. Woven City is the first project dedicated to fostering happiness, sustainability, and well-being for all mankind through mobility. So we've answered the question. Basically, they've taken an old Toyota car plant just outside of Tokyo, converted it, closed it down, converted it to smart cities. They will start in about a year to 18 months' time with 360 residents. And these residents are co-creators and innovators. So what they learn and what they will test, they will share with the rest of the world. And they'll move to 2,000 employees within a couple of years. And the interesting bit here was within the city itself, people and transportation is above the ground, and then logistics and movement of other goods is below the ground. So this is what they're trying to prove. This frees up better use of the smart city. I've just lost my place there. Sorry. And coming back to, just checking the time, coming back to ESG. So I was asked to come up with something controversial. And there are some insurers in the room because I can see their faces. So if we're looking at sustainability and future of mobility, then we have to clearly consider the environment. Today, insurers do a new for old policy. But I'm going to swear now and use the B word. In the future, we have to do betterment. Okay? Smart cities is all about betterment. When I've had a loss in a light commercial property, warehouse, we have to rebuild it and rebuild it with the materials that will last for the future. That is betterment. So that's something we have to do using sustainable materials. I'll finish with one of my quotes. Okay. So if data is the oil in a connected world, then mobility will become the renewable energy of the smart city. Over to you, Zenia.
Well, I think that definitely leaves some thought to digest this quote. I think the discussion really showcased the dynamic and the transformative motive of the mobility sector with focus on sustainability, ESG, customer-centric approach, cyber data. The future literally holds both challenges but also immense opportunities for this. And it's basically paved by you, paved an exciting journey ahead. Thank you very much to the audience for joining us. We hope we sparked some imagination, some curiosity, and now a big applause to our esteemed panelists or talk show participants today. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you very much.